Welcome to episode 92 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and today we continue with the tales of Troy and the story of Achilles, newly armed. Both armies rested from the stubborn battle. The Trojans loosed their horses from the chariots, but before they even thought of eating, they assembled in council. Upright they stood in a circle, and no one dared sit, for they were still trembling with terror at Achilles, and feared he might reappear. At last, wise Polydamas, son of Panthos, who could see both the future and the past, advised them not to wait for dawn, but to return to the city with all possible speed. "When Achilles is fully armed and find us here in the morning," he said, "those who escape and reach Troy will be favored by fortune, but many will be food for dogs and vultures. May heaven avert such fate. Therefore, I counsel you and all your warriors to spend the night in the marketplace of Troy, where high walls and solid gates will guard us on all sides. When dawn comes, let us man the ramparts, and woe to him when he rushes from the ships to attack us." Now Hector spoke, and his eyes were stern. "Your words, Polydamas, strike harshly on my ears. What now that Zeus has granted me victory, now that I have pressed the Argives back to the sea, your timid counsel must seem folly to the people, and not a single Trojan will heed you. I, for my part, bid everyone eat and keep watch. If there is any who fears for his stores and his wealth, let him spend all for a feast to be held in common. Better our men take pleasure in it than the Acheans. When the dawn breaks, we shall resume our attack on the ships. If Achilles has already returned to the field, he has chosen an unenviable lot, for I shall not stop fighting until he or I bear off the crown of victory." These ill-advised words of Hector weighed heavier with the Trojans than the sound counsel of Polydamas. They burst into joyful acclaim and hungrily fell on their food. The whole night long the Argives mourned Patroclus, and Achilles, more than all, made lament. Laying his hands, which had slain so many foes, on the breast of his friends, he said, "What idle words I spoke that time when I tried to comfort old Menoetius by promising him to bring his son back to Oppius, rich in spoils and glory, after the fall of Troy. Now fate wills that both he and I pour out our blood on alien soil, for I, too, shall never return to the palace of my father, gray-haired Peleus, and of Thetis, my mother. The earth of Troy will cover me. But since it is appointed that I die after you, Patroclus, I shall not hold your funeral until I have brought you the armor and the head of Hector your slayer. And 12 of the noblest sons of Troy I shall offer up at your pyre as well. Until this has been done, rest here by the ship's beloved friend." When he had spoken, Achilles bade his companions set a great cauldron filled with water on the fire, and wash and anointed the body of the fallen hero. Then they laid him on a bier and spread fine linen over him from head to foot, and over this a white robe. Thetis, meanwhile, had arrived at the bronze palace which lame Hephaestus had built for himself. It shone like stars, beautiful and everlasting. She found the god sweating at the bellows. He had forged 20 tripods, and at the base of each he had fastened golden wheels, which, without the touch of a hand, rolled into the halls of Olympus to the feet of the immortals, and returned to his workshop again. They were wonderful to see, complete save for the handles, and these he was just making, welding his hammer to rivet them in their proper place. And while he worked, Charis, his wife, one of the Graces, took Thetis by the hand, led her to a silver chair, set a footstool beneath her feet, and fetched her husband, Hephaestus. When he saw the goddess of the sea, he called out joyfully, "How happy I am that the noblest among the immortals has come to my house, she who saved me from destruction when I was just born. For because I was lame, my mother cast me out, and I should have perished miserably, had not your enemy and Thetis taken me and reared me in a cave in the sea until I was 9 years old. There, in a vaulted grotto, I fashioned works, curious and cunning, clasps and rings, brooches and necklace, and about me foamed the surging stream of the ocean. And now she who rescued me is visiting me in my own house. See to her entertainment, sweet Ceres, while I clear away this welter of work and tools. Thus spoke the sooty god, and he rose limping from beside the anvil, took the bellows from the fire, locked his delicate implements in a silver chest, and with a sponge wiped his hands and face, his neck and shaggy chest. Then he put on his tunic, and, helped by his handmaids, limped back into the room. These maids, however, were not living creatures born of women, but only the image of such. They were fashioned of gold, and furnished with the charms of youth, with strength and skill, with reason and voice. Moving on swift feet, they hastened from their master, who seated himself beside Thetis, clasped her hands, and said, "Dear and honored goddess, why have you come to my house today, you who visit me so rarely? Tell me what you desire, and whatever I am able to do, I surely shall do it for you." Then Thetis told him all her sorrow, and clasping his knees, begged him to fashion for her son Achilles, destined to die so soon, a helmet and shield, a cuirass and greaves fitted with ankle pieces, since the armor which the immortals have given Peleus had been lost when Patroclus fell before Troy. "Be of good courage, and do not let this upset you, dear goddess," said Hephaestus. "If only I could save your son from the power of death, as surely as I shall now make his armor so strong and so splendid that he will rejoice, and every mortal who looks at him will be filled with wonder." So saying, he left Thetis, and turned his bellows toward the fire. 20 of these, of their own accord, blew upon the melting vats, in which he placed bronze and tin, silver and gold. Next he set his anvil on the anvil block. With his right hand he seized his mighty hammer, and with his left gripped the tongs. First he made a shield, great and strong, in 5 layers, adorned with a triple gleaming rim and a shield strap of silver. On the shield he wrought the earth, the tiding sea and heaven, with the sun, the moon, and all the constellations, and further 2 far cities, the one gay with bridal rites and torch-lit feast, with an assembly of the people, citizens urging about the blood price of a slain man, heralds and elders. The other city was besieged by 2 armies. Within the walls were women, young children, and old men with faltering feet. Outside were warriors lying in ambush where the herdsmen watered their cattle. On another side was the tumult of battle with wounded men and the fight for bodies and armor. He also wrought a field with loosened clods and plowers and oxen, waving barley and reapers, cutting swaths with their sickles, and further a vineyard, the dark golden clusters of swelling grapes hanging from the stakes of silver, and round about a trench of bluish metal and a fence of tin. A path led to the vines, and the time of vintage had come. Youths, sturdy and gay, and lovely maids bore the fruit away in fair baskets. Among them went a boy with a lyre, and some danced to his music. Furthermore, he wrought cattle of gold and tin, pastured beside a flowing river by 4 gold shepherds and 9 dogs. 2 lions had fallen on the foremost in the herd and seized a bullock, and the herdsmen set on them their dogs, who stood baying within springing distance of the beasts of prey. And further, he devised a gentle valley with silver sheep scattered over the slopes, with folds and houses and the huts of the shepherds, and a dance of youths and maidens in shining array. The girl dancers wore wreaths, and the boy dancers daggers of gold suspended from silver straps. 2 tumblers whirled about to the sound of a harp, and many had come to watch the dance and the merriment. And around the uttermost rim of the shield, the river Oceanus twined like a glittering serpent. When he had finished the shield, he forged a breastplate brighter than blazing fire. Then the massive helmet, fitted well to the temples and topped with a crest of gold, then greaves of pliant tin. When all was complete, he laid it before the mother of Achilles. She seized the armor as a falcon in its prey, thanked the smith, and in her slender hands bore away the shimmering pieces. With the first glimmer of dawn, she was back with her son, who was still weeping over the body of Patroclus. She laid the arms down before him, and they rang loud in their splendor. The Myrmidons trembled at the sight, and no one dared look the goddess straight in the face. But under their wet lashes, Achilles' eyes flashed with fierce joy. One after another, he lifted the glittering gifts of Hephaestus and feasted his heart on them. Then he girt on his armor. "Look to it," he told his friends in parting, "that flies do not settle in the wounds of my fallen comrade in arms and defile his beautiful body." "Let that be my care," said Thetis, and through the half-opened lips of Patroclus she poured ambrosia and nectar. The balm of the gods suffused his flesh, and he looked like someone who was alive. Achilles strode down to the seashore, and with thunderous voice called to the Acheans. Whoever could stand on his feet ran to his call, even the helmsmen who had never yet left their ships. And though they were wounded, Diomedes and Odysseus limped up to him, leaning on their lances, and after them came all the heroes, last of all Agamemnon, still faint from the wound he had suffered at the spear of Coon, son of Antenor. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.